I was born 1941 in Maribor. It's a little town not far from the border of Austria. And it was 41, and the Germans came very early to the country in April. My dad was an officer in the Yugoslavian army. And they talked to me and said, either you are with us, it's okay, or you're not with us, then we shoot you on the place. So my dad had no choice at all. He had to go with Wehrmacht, and he followed them. And he came after 2 years up to Denmark, Copenhagen. And there he met the Danish resistance movement. And he gave them a lot of information. And one night, 43 December, they took him with a fishing boat over from Denmark to Sweden. So he saved his life that way. And he gathered a lot of money, put it in a bank in Prague, and Prague was liberated. Me, my brother, and my mother could go up to Prague, and therefore we could fly to Sweden.
Uh-huh.
So that's and of course my dad was traumatized. I mean, he had seen too much.
Yeah.
He has done too much. All his life he was a very bitter man,
Mm-hmm.
longing for coming back to Yugoslavia. But he managed in a good way to get money and so on, but he was very traumatized. I mean, and he died only 51 year old. That's nothing.
No.
My mother died at once when we come to Sweden, but it was TBC. That was something else.
Yeah. And
So that much I loved, and I started anyway. Even I couldn't ask my dad about these questions about the Second World War.
Mhm.
So I read about it in news, and I became more and more fascinated over the war.
Yeah.
So today I have a library who is really good, and there I found the stories like. Ice Horses of Ladoga. There I found the stories about Irena Sendler, this Polish social worker, and of course Janos Korczak.
yeah.
And I knew it very early before about our Swedish hero Raoul Wallenberg.
Yeah.
So I thinking of heroes in some way. Even the horses in one way are
Our
heroes.
heroes also. Yeah. Yeah.
Snön faller och vi med den. Snön faller nu längre än.
It was 1941. The Russians attacked Finland, and they came with a regiment, and they made a rest at the Ladoga Sea. The Finnish scouts couldn't do anything. There were few soldiers, but they set fire to the wood, and in a few hours, there was a tremendous, dramatic for the horses. They jumped into the sea. And late in the night came a very strong wind, cold, icy wind from Murmansk, and the Ladoga froze to ice in a few hours. So when the Finnish came very early next day, They saw that the regiment had fled away, but there was only the 1,000 horses standing in the sea. It's on the place. It's a Swedish magazine who asked me, Andrew, can you go with them? Reporter and a photographer and place the horses where they once were standing.
Yeah.
So we found it. We found not the exact place because Malaparte didn't write exactly, but we know quite good where it was standing. And we had a not so big car, so we just could bring with us 5 of them. And to come into Russia with it, it's not so difficult. They looked at the car, opened the car, he said, and what is this? Davai, get away. But on the back, when we were finishing, we had done everything, and so then we were stopped by 3 really big guys. And they said, what is this? And they took one of them, put in and the photographer stand beside me and said to him, it's a horse. And then he said, the artist, and he pointed to me, is Coco. He took it so nice, put it in the car, and please go on. So it saved a lot of time to explain it.
Wouldn't be possible at this time, maybe.
No.
Med bilen och flammorna. Ingen var. Ingen var.
Johannes Korczak was educated as a doctor, a children doctor. He became very famous 1920 when he from Warsaw went to Paris, and then he wrote books about how to deal with children, how to make them responsible and give them love and so on. And when 1940, when the war came to Warsaw and Poland, he went back. He bought a big house in Warsaw, and there he hosted 200 children who had no parents. He gave them education every day. He gave them food. And 1942, 2 years later, the German commandant told Janos, tomorrow you bring the children to the railway station. And that Janos understood at once that it was they were departed to Treblinka, just a few miles outside. He took the children next day. They were dressed as good that they could, and they were going together with them. And when they came to the railway station, the commandant said to him, Janos, you are world famous. When you have brought the children on board, you have to hide yourself. Nobody will do anything to you. Then Janos said the most wonderful sentence I heard in my life, and that is, I go together with the children.
What do you remember about your dad?
Oh, no. this bitterness. That's the main point. That's the. He married a Swedish woman after a few years, and she was such one. She said to me and my brother that I am not your mother. So, in such way, it was a cold home, very cold. No feelings at all. That's what I can remember from my childhood.
And he did not talk
Very
about...
strong rules about everything. And
And did he talk about the war and his
no, it
experiences?
was impossible. Most of the people who have been in the Second World War, they don't talk about it. They don't understand. They could get some help to talking about what they had seen or done.
Yeah.
And my dad was the same. There was never any questions about it. But I saw the German newspapers wrote, the Stern and the Frankfurter, they talked about the people, the soldiers who come home from Stalingrad in 1951 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I saw, I could read, and then so I saw that he read about it, but he never talked about it. And he had 3 brothers in Graz who we visited every summer. And the funny thing is that we never stopped in Germany. And I think after I have to understand, he didn't want to come out and see someone who he was such afraid to get in that position. So we never stopped, not even a coffee, just rushed through Germany to the border of Austria.
Yeah. And when he was, he was only 50 when...
No, 51.
51 when he died. Yeah.
Ah.
So you never had the possibility to talk about it and...
No.
Also not...
At that time, I mean, I was already interested in the subject of the Second World War, but I noticed that once he didn't answer. If I asked him a question, he wouldn't answer of it. He said, no, I don't, it's the Second World War, it's... So it's,
So you're saying he was a traumatized man? He had a trauma from...
Sure, he was very...
Yeah. But also, a lot of time you hear that people, the children from people who were in that situation are also a little bit traumatized because of the parents and because of the pain.
Sure.
But,
Sure. And I mean, when the war is over, then the Swedish government said, no, family Prague, you have to leave. Now it's already peace in your home countries. Then my dad had met one of the highest women in Red Cross. And she said, Misha, that was his name, Misha, I will fix this because I know the Swedish foreign minister, Christian Gütter. Aha, my dad said. And one day she went up to him and she told my dad later that she said, Christian, this Swedish family is a very good family. They have, they can support themselves and so on. They should be living in Sweden because they want to live in Sweden. But it's not the rules, he said. I don't go out in this room before you sign this paper. And that was it.
Yeah. And at that time, you have one brother?
Yeah.
You're already sort of Swedish guys.
Yeah, in some way, yeah. But that was, I mean, Swedish guy, it was already 46 in the beginning of 46, and we have been there just 1 year.
Yeah.
And perhaps we could little Swedish, I can't remember it, but as I told you, Dad always said, you have to be Swedish. don't drink alcohol and don't drink that, and try not to be as Swedish as Swede as possible. So in some way.
Yeah.
So now that's. And then I get educated at the Konstfack. It's a very fine art school in Sweden. I was very interested in art. I started drawing at 16 years and drawing horses and so and people and making aquarels. I mean water paper. So I get the education, and after that I became an art teacher and was in a little town near Stockholm for 6 years.
Okay.
1970 came the Nobel Prize went to the Russian writer Solzhenitsyn. I saw in the newspaper there was only one picture in all newspapers. There was only one, and I made a drawing of it. And I went up to the Swedish best-known newspaper.
Oh wow.
And it was very easy to make a drawing. And he said, this man, editor-in-chief, he said, Andre, this is wonderful, we buy it, do you want to work with us in the newspaper? Yeah, I said, I was not, I was satisfied to be a teacher, but I think there's something in front which could be much more interesting. So I get employed at the newspaper, and then I worked on this editorial for 25 years.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And one day, 5 years later, he said, Andre, you have such nice clothes. You are interested in fashion. So, I'm very interested. But could you wrestle a little with this once about the drawings and make this trip as fashion? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. I don't know French. I just a little lessons in the school is not enough for French. But anyway, I could German quite good, and perhaps little English. And I understand that once I was the only male fashion reporter. There were only female around me all over. And on this way I met what I think the best fashion designers in the world. One is Giorgio Armani. He came in 1980 from Milano. One day I felt I've done too much of this. I have to work with my own thoughts, with different materials. I was not only interested in fashion materials, but also with iron and work on things like that. I mean, the boats over the Danish fishing boats.
Do you have children?
Yeah, I have a daughter. Only a daughter, yes. And she's working with making films. And one of the films she was in charge of is called A Swedish Tiger. That's a word for to be silent. That's what to be said under the Second World War. The Swedes said always, don't say anything. You have to be quiet. Don't say. So in some way she's in my footsteps.
Yes. So a lot of generations, still, feel the war also. It's a part of your life and her life. Still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. It's,
Yeah. What emotions or messages do you hope to convey to your audience through the art you make?
yeah.
Particularly, of course, dealing with the teams lost and remembrance also.
Yeah, what after 4 months with the exhibition, I was there nearly every day. I met a lot of people, and these people were so kindly to me. They stood in front of me. Some of them were crying over the subject, but especially when I spoke over Irena Sendler or Jonas Korczak. And there was one day was a young German guy together with his wife, and he said, "I'm so ashamed for being a German of what they have done." And I of course told him, "Don't be ashamed of the other generation. You are innocent. You have nothing to do with it, and try to have a nice living. You can understand it, what perhaps your parents or other people, but don't try to be
Ashamed or
But I met so many people, and most of them also. Then we started the next. After I told them about these people, then we started. Andre, they said, "Are these third war coming now, or what?"
Yeah.
I said, we all of us were so afraid of Trump, of Putin, of course, Kosygin, Orban, Erdogan. The world is filled with such bad politicians.
Yeah. At this moment, it's terrible what's going on.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Not only in Europe, but
yeah, and being a young people today, like my daughter's children, they are 16 and 15, and they are aware what's happened. And they said, "Grandpa, it's not so easy to live and thinking of the future and what shall I do in the life."
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about this politician, and it's not the only thing we talk about the climate problem also.
yeah,
Also, these politicians and climate problem.
too much
Oh,
at
it's
this moment.
oh.
You hear a lot of information about all the bad things that are going on in the world and
Yes.
has been going on. But looking at your work, it really, well, it touches me, and I saw it around me also. You look at it and you read it and you really feel the pain from then.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that you can achieve such a thing. And it's important also.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah. One thing I've been with my works is that they should be understandable. When I myself go at the museums, it happens so many times I don't understand what I see. And I promised myself, when you work with some, either you have to do it in the sculpture or in the drawings, so that people understand what they are. And that is what happens now when I see the reactions.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah, it works,
Yeah.
really works. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
That's make me very, very happy.
Yeah. Did you ever went back to Slovenia lately?
I
You still
was-
have family, maybe?
No, I was there once. I was just taken driver license. I was 40 years old.
Oh.
And then I said to myself, I must go back to Maribor and look,
Yeah.
because of course, I had a memory how we were living and how it looked like a little in the town and so on. And I was driving down. Came to a big square. There was a hotel, and I asked them, "Where is Svetozarevska number 2?" "Oh, it's just down the river." "Ah, river, yeah, that's okay. We lived near the river. So I went down there, number 2. I looked at here, 1990. It was still a lot of bullets in the. Yeah. Haven't they done anything up here? And I remember we were living on the first floor. So I went up the stairs, I was ringing and said, "Hope they understand something." Nobody answered. But on the other side came an old lady out, and she said, "These people can you speak German?" I said, "Yes, I speak German." "Oh, wonderful, sir, wonderful. I am Andre, and I lived here." "Now, my God," she said, "Andre and Franjo." And that was Misha's sons. She remembers. Oh.
Special, yeah.
It
Was it different for your brother to deal with the Second World War and with your father? And
I can say exactly no deal at all. He was not interested.
no?
I became a very good dentist. And I said a few times, "Franjo, let's go down and look. I have been there, but I take you there." We were not interested. No, not at all interested. No.
So you don't share this with
No,
him?
not at all.
No.
No, not at all. And anyway, his name, Franjo Pro, I mean, a lot of people must have said, "Where are you coming from?" They ask me all the time where I'm coming from. And so then I don't know how he had explained it. He lived in Stockholm for many years, but he moved something like 1980 to Östersund. It's a town up in the north. So, but people were making jokes all the time, even in very famous reporters on the newspaper Expressen said, "Andre," they said, "You you're Romanian chicken thief," or something. It was all said, whenever Andre or always something who looked back on my background. And they were, of course, they were nice and they liked me and we were good friends, but just the name is what. And when you pronounce it, you should say Andrej Prach. It's not like my dad changed it to Andre. He said the Swedish, they can't pronounce the name with EG. It would be Andre, but Prach. That's well, I don't want to change it. I have to live with it.
Of course, it's part of you. Who you are.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, I would like to see the big horses, if possible. You have them here also.
Yeah, sure. Dobro jutro, товарищи. If the murk is too dark, I can have light on.
Oh, I think it's super. Oh, there's so many of them.
And I really think they were standing like this, climbing on each other.
Yeah.
Snön faller och vi med den långt till sommaren. Snön faller och vi med den. Det blir mycket bättre sen. Iväg med bilen genom flingorna.
There are different sizes of them. But it took me a long time to go over the beaches and found all this material.
Yeah.
So I've been on the many beaches, even in Germany, but there was nothing in Germany. I really couldn't find anything. I find a lot in the Danish coast.
Snön faller och vi med den. Snön faller nog längre. Har jag på känn.
Yeah, because you did tell me that you went to Sweden as a child. You were very young then. But did you come together with your mother, or did your mother die before?
No, she was. We come with our mother.
Yeah. Okay.
But as soon as she was here, she get examination, and then it was TBC, very difficult.
Yeah.
She couldn't be cured, so in 1 year she died.
Okay. And at which age?
Yeah,
were
so
you?
not more than 25, 26.
Oh, that's
something
very
like that.
young. And you were also very young then.
Yeah, sure, we were. I was 6 and my brother was 7.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
so
you
we-
can remember her.
Yeah, we remember
yeah,
her. Yes.
Yeah.
Ah.
yeah. So then you told me you didn't connect very well with your stepmother. Your father got married again.
Yes. In some way, I mean, the first she said to me and my brother was, she told us that we were not her children. And that, but in a long-term way, she behaved in a nice way and so on. I have nothing against her and so on.
No.
It was just this sentence once when we met the first time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but as I told you, together with my father, they were not so. That was not a good home for children. I mean. With a father who has just survived the war
Yeah.
and was very deeply bitterness and so on all the time, and then a Swedish mother.
Yeah. So who gave you the most support while growing up?
I think nobody.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. Well, my brother was 1 year elder than me. Perhaps I can think he was supporting. In one way he was. But I give you an example. I was playing hockey, and that was very strange because no artists and so, they don't play hockey, and not on that very big level. I was I think art was wonderful, but I think also sport and hockey was wonderful. But one evening we met the best team in Sweden, and I could tell my dad, said, "Dad, tonight we are playing against a team called Djurgården," and that was very famous hockey players in that. One is called Tumba and one is Nisse Nilsson. And I said to him, "I have 2 tickets." And then he said, "But do you think I'm going to stand out there and for a hockey match? Are you mad? Are you still playing?" He said. He didn't understand at all. That was that is something you never forget.
No.
Resisting the son playing in a very, very interesting match, and then he said, "I'm not interested at all."
Yeah. So you did realize at that time, at that age, that there was something different comparing to the other boys.
Yeah, sure it was. But in the team, I had two men who were like fathers for me.
Ah.
They did understand the situation and so on. And so I could have the problems I had in the school and so on. I could talk with them and so on. They helped me a lot. This playmate.
So looking back at your childhood, could you say that you were a happy child or just survived?
Yeah, I could say I could. I more than survived. In some way, I was a happy child. You're right, because I wasn't home after I've been in the school and I've been training with hockey. So I didn't go home. They could be at home. My parents and so on. I had other, and late in the evening I went home sleeping, and early in the morning I was gone again.
Yeah.
And that was the same with Saturday and Sundays. So I had a lot of friends.
Yeah. Well, that's good, I think.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And do you think this influences the way you connect to other people, your relations on older age?
Oh, I don't know. When I'm driving into the town, I'm sometimes thinking back. So I could, for myself, answer the questions, but sometimes it's too difficult. I don't know why I didn't. I couldn't find the right answers of this.
Yeah.
Sometimes I say, Andrew, don't bother your head with things like that. You don't need the answer of these questions.
Yeah. Yeah. But you found a lot into the art.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Your art doesn't only show the atrocities of the war, but also, or rather, the love and the strength of
Sure.
humanity.
Sure,
I
sure.
was just wondering, why is that so important for you?
Most of the things I did during these young years, I mean, I do portraits of politicians, so I didn't, not actually with, like Janusz Korczak or Irina Sender, it came very late.
Yeah.
I know the history of them, but I was doing more, and I was always doing things like this. I mean, there's no sadness in things like this. It's just living landscape, Gotland and so on.
Yeah.
So there's much happiness in these things.
Yeah.